The child's tragedy. In a distant part of the galaxy, the Galactic Council ruled over many worlds. They were an alliance of powerful alien species, each one believing they were wiser and stronger than the rest of the galaxy's inhabitants. The Council's laws were strict, and they enforced them without mercy. To them, the rules mattered more than the lives of the beings they governed. On a small colony world far from Earth, a human family lived peacefully among aliens. The colony was a quiet place where different species worked together, trying to make a better life for themselves. Among the humans was a little girl named Mira. She was 7 years old, with bright eyes full of wonder and a heart full of kindness. Mira loved exploring the fields outside her home, picking flowers and playing with the small animals that lived there. Her laughter was a sweet sound that brought joy to everyone who heard it. But one day, the peace of the colony was shattered. The Galactic Council had sent a team of enforcers to the colony. They were there to deal with a disagreement between two alien factions. The problem had nothing to do with humans, but the Council's enforcers did not care. They arrived in large, menacing ships that cast shadows over the entire colony. The sky darkened as the ships descended, and the people below felt a deep sense of fear. The enforcers were known for their ruthlessness, and everyone knew that they brought trouble wherever they went. Mira's parents, like the other humans in the colony, were worried. They had heard stories of the Council's enforcers, how they acted without compassion and punished even the smallest of mistakes. But they hoped that, as long as they stayed out of the way, they would be safe. That afternoon, as the sun began to set, Mira wandered a little further from home than usual. She followed a trail of butterflies into the woods, her laughter echoing through the trees. She didn't notice the distant sound of ships landing or the tension that was spreading through the colony. For her, it was just another day of play and adventure. In the center of the colony, the enforcers had gathered the leaders of the alien factions. They demanded obedience and threatened severe punishment if their orders were not followed. The situation was tense, and the enforcers were ready to show their strength. They believed that fear was the best way to keep control, and they were willing to do anything to maintain their authority. As the negotiations dragged on, one of the enforcers grew impatient. He was a tall, cold-blooded alien with no tolerance for delay. His eyes narrowed as he listened to the colony leaders argue back and forth. To him, this was all a waste of time. He decided to make an example out of someone to show that the Council's orders were not to be questioned. At that moment, Mira, unaware of the danger around her, wandered into the edge of the gathering. She had followed a bird to the clearing and was now standing, unnoticed, near the tense crowd. Her innocent presence went unnoticed for a few seconds, but then the impatient enforcer caught sight of her. "Human child, step forward," the enforcer barked in a harsh tone. Mira froze in place, her wide eyes staring up at the towering alien. The crowd fell silent, watching in horror as the enforcer stepped closer to the little girl. Mira's parents, who had been searching for her, heard the commotion and rushed to the scene. When they saw their daughter standing before the enforcer, their hearts filled with terror. "Please, she's just a child!" Mira's mother cried out, running toward her daughter. The enforcer sneered. "This child is human, and humans must learn their place," he said coldly. Without warning, the enforcer raised his weapon. A flash of light erupted from the barrel, and in an instant, the little girl fell to the ground. The crowd gasped in shock, and Mira's parents screamed in anguish. The enforcer looked down at the child's lifeless body with indifference. To him, this was just a necessary demonstration of power. But to the humans in the colony, and soon to all of humanity, this was an unforgivable act of cruelty. Word of Mira's death spread quickly, carried by messengers and communication channels to every corner of human space. The news reached Earth within hours, and the reaction was immediate. Anger, sorrow, and a deep sense of injustice filled the hearts of people everywhere. This was not just the death of an innocent child, it was an attack on all of humanity. The leaders of Earth tried to speak with the Galactic Council, demanding justice for the little girl. They asked for the enforcer to be punished, and for assurances that such a tragedy would never happen again. But the Council, confident in its power, ignored their pleas. To them, the life of one human child was insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy. The people of Earth, however, did not see it that way. This was the final straw. For too long, humanity had been treated as second-class citizens in the galaxy, pushed around and disrespected. But now, with the death of an innocent child, they had had enough. In secret, Earth's leaders began to search through their ancient records, looking for something that had been hidden away for centuries, something that could show the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, in old, forgotten bunkers, they found what they were looking for: the plans for an ancient fleet of warships, built long ago when humans first reached for the stars. These ships were powerful, designed for a time when humanity had to fight for survival. Now they would be reawakened. Humanity would unleash its ancient fleet, and the galaxy would learn that Earth was not to be trifled with. The news of little Mira's death spread like wildfire across Earth and its colonies. People were heartbroken and angry. This was not just the loss of an innocent child. It was a brutal reminder of how humanity was treated by the Galactic Council. For too long, humans had been seen as lesser beings, pushed around by the more powerful alien species. But now that would change. In the days following Mira's death, Earth's leaders gathered in secret meetings. They knew that words would not be enough to bring justice. The Galactic Council had ignored their pleas, and now it was time to act. The question was, how? In one of these meetings, a group of historians and military officers presented an idea. They spoke of something long forgotten, buried deep in the archives of Earth's ancient history. It was a fleet of warships, built centuries ago when humanity first ventured into the stars. These ships were powerful, designed to defend against unknown threats during a time when humans were still finding their place in the galaxy. But as the galaxy became more peaceful, the ships were hidden away, their existence known only to a few. "We have the plans," one of the historians said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "These ships were built to protect humanity. If we can bring them back to life, we can show the Galactic Council that Earth will not be pushed around any longer." The room fell silent as the leaders considered this. The idea of reawakening such an ancient and powerful fleet was daunting, but it was also their best chance to stand up against the Council. After a long pause, the decision was made. Earth would awaken its ancient fleet. Across the planet, teams of engineers, scientists, and military personnel were quickly assembled. They worked in secret, far from the eyes of the public and the spies of the Galactic Council. The first step was to locate the old ships. These vessels had been hidden in underground bunkers deep beneath the surface of Earth, in places where few dared to go. The bunkers were secured with ancient codes and protected by thick layers of rock and metal. It took time and effort to access them, but the teams were determined. When they finally reached the bunkers, the sight that greeted them was awe-inspiring. Row upon row of massive warships covered in dust and cobwebs stood silent and still. These ships had once been the pride of humanity, each one a masterpiece of engineering and design. Their dark hulls were sleek and powerful, built to withstand the harshest conditions of space. Even after centuries of neglect, they looked as though they could still dominate any battlefield. But the ships were old and their systems were outdated. The engineers knew they had a lot of work to do. They began by carefully inspecting each ship, checking for damage and assessing what needed to be repaired or upgraded. The ship's engines were tested, their weapon systems examined, and their shields recalibrated. It was a race against time, as Earth's leaders wanted the fleet ready as soon as possible. The work was hard, but it brought the teams together. They knew they were part of something important, something that could change the course of history. Day and night, they worked in shifts, barely stopping to rest. The sound of tools clanking against metal echoed through the bunkers as the ships slowly came back to life. As the days turned into weeks, the first ship was finally ready to be powered up. It was a moment of great anticipation. The engineers and military officers gathered around, holding their breath as the lead engineer flipped the switch. There was a low hum, and then, with a deep rumble, the ship's engines roared to life. The lights on the ship's hull flickered on, casting a glow across the dark bunker. The ship was alive once more. This success filled the teams with renewed energy. Ship by ship, the fleet was awakened. Each one required careful attention, but with every ship that came online, the sense of excitement grew. Earth was preparing for something big, and everyone involved knew it. Meanwhile, the leaders of Earth began to plan their next move. They couldn't keep the fleet hidden forever. They needed to show the Galactic Council that humanity was not to be underestimated. But how could they do this without provoking an all-out war? The answer came from one of the military strategists, a show of force. They would send a small detachment of the fleet to a border system controlled by the Council. It would be a warning, a way to show the Council that Earth was ready to defend itself. The chosen ships were prepared for launch. Their engines hummed with power, their weapons systems were fully operational, and their shields were at maximum strength. The day of the launch was filled with tension. The fleet had not seen battle in centuries, and no one knew how the Galactic Council would react. As the countdown reached 0, the first ship lifted off from the bunker, followed by another and then another. The ground shook as the massive vessels ascended into the sky. Soon they were in space, heading toward the border system. The sight of the ancient ships flying in formation was breathtaking. They were a symbol of humanity's strength and determination, a reminder that Earth was not to be trifled with. When the fleet arrived at the border system, they encountered a small patrol of Galactic Council ships. The aliens were taken by surprise. They had never seen ships like these before, ships that radiated power and confidence. The human fleet didn't fire a single shot. They didn't need to. The mere presence of these ancient warships was enough to send a clear message. Humanity was ready to fight, and it would not be bullied. Back on Earth, the people watched as the events unfolded. The news of the fleet's awakening spread quickly, and for the first time in a long while, there was hope. Humanity had found its strength again, and with it, the courage to stand up to the Galactic Council. The stage was set for a new chapter in the galaxy's history, one where Earth would no longer be a passive player. The ancient ships, once forgotten, were now the key to humanity's future. The ancient fleet of Earth had made its first appearance, and the galaxy was beginning to take notice. The sight of the powerful human ships moving through space sent ripples of fear and curiosity across many star systems. But in the grand halls of the Galactic Council, the reaction was different. The council members were a mix of different alien species, each with their own culture and history. They had ruled the galaxy for centuries, maintaining order through strict laws and a powerful military. To them, the humans were just one of many species, a group that had never truly been a threat. So when the news of Earth's fleet reached them, they were not worried. In fact, they were dismissive. "The humans are bluffing," said one of the council members, a tall, scaly alien with piercing yellow eyes. He waved his hand dismissively as the images of the human ships played on the screens around them. "These ships are old, relics from a forgotten era. They might look impressive, but they are no match for our modern fleet." Several other council members nodded in agreement. They had grown accustomed to their power and believed that no species could challenge them. The idea that humans, a species they had always seen as weak, could pose a real threat seemed laughable. But not everyone in the council was so sure. There were whispers among the lower ranks, quiet conversations about the sudden appearance of these ancient ships. Some of the council's military advisors were uneasy, warning that the humans might be more dangerous than they appeared. However, these warnings were ignored by the more powerful members, who believed their own propaganda. The council decided to respond with force. They planned to send a fleet of their own to meet the humans. This fleet would be smaller than the one they used for major wars, but they believed it would be more than enough to deal with Earth's outdated ships. They would show the humans who was in charge and crush their hopes of rebellion before it could grow any further. The fleet was quickly assembled, made up of sleek advanced warships from various council species. Each ship was equipped with the latest in weaponry and defense systems, a testament to the council's technological superiority. The fleet commander, a veteran of many battles, was confident in their mission. "They will see our ships and surrender," the commander said with a smirk as the fleet prepared to depart. "These humans are playing with fire and they will be burned." As the council's fleet set off, they expected a quick victory. The humans, they believed, would be overwhelmed by the power and precision of the council's warships. The plan was simple. Engage the human fleet at the border system where they had made their appearance, force them to retreat or surrender, and then return to the council's core worlds in triumph. But the council had underestimated the humans in more ways than one. They didn't realize that Earth's ancient fleet, while old, had been built with technology that was ahead of its time. The ships were not just relics, they were powerful, with weapons and shields that had been designed to protect humanity in the most dangerous of times. And now they had been upgraded with modern technology, making them even more formidable. When the two fleets finally met at the edge of the border system, It was clear that the Council's assumptions had been wrong. The human ships were not the slow, outdated vessels the Council had imagined. They moved with purpose, their dark hulls gleaming in the starlight. The humans had come to fight, not to surrender. The battle began with a volley of laser fire from the Council's ships, a show of strength meant to intimidate the humans. But instead of retreating, the human fleet charged forward. Their weapons, a mix of ancient and modern technology, fired back with deadly accuracy. The first Council ship to be hit didn't stand a chance. Its shields failed almost instantly, and the ship was torn apart by the human weapons. The Council fleet was shocked. They had expected the humans to be weak, easy targets. But these ships, with their powerful weapons and advanced tactics, were proving to be a serious threat. The battle quickly turned chaotic as the Council's fleet tried to regroup. But the humans were relentless, their ships moving with precision and determination. One by one, the Council's ships were destroyed or disabled. The veteran commander, who had been so confident just moments before, now found himself in a fight for survival. The human ships surrounded the Council fleet, cutting off their escape routes and targeting their most vulnerable ships. Within hours, it was over. The Council's fleet had been decimated, with only a few ships managing to escape back to their home worlds. The humans had won a decisive victory, one that would echo across the galaxy. When the news of the defeat reached the Galactic Council, it sent shockwaves through their ranks. The members who had dismissed the humans as a minor threat were now facing the consequences of their arrogance. The humans had proven themselves to be a formidable force, and the Council's confidence had been shattered. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council found itself facing a real challenge to its power. The humans had shown that they would not be pushed around, that they would fight for their place in the galaxy. And now the Council was left to deal with the aftermath of their mistake. In the days that followed, fear and uncertainty spread among the Council's allies. Other alien species, who had long been under the Council's control, began to question their loyalty. Whispers of rebellion grew louder, and the once unshakable authority of the Galactic Council began to crumble. The humans had won more than just a battle. They had struck a blow to the heart of the Council's power. And as Earth's ancient fleet prepared for the next phase of their campaign, the galaxy watched with bated breath, knowing that the true fight was only just beginning. The victory at the border system sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated a fleet from the Galactic Council, the most powerful alliance in the known universe. News of the battle spread quickly, and with it came a new sense of fear and respect for Earth. The ancient fleet that had been awakened was not just a relic of the past. It was a symbol of humanity's strength and determination. On Earth, the mood was one of cautious optimism. The people celebrated the victory, but they also knew that this was just the beginning. The Galactic Council would not take this defeat lightly. Retaliation was inevitable, and the humans needed to be ready. Earth's leaders, now more united than ever, prepared for the war that was about to come. In secret war rooms deep underground, Earth's top military minds gathered to plan their next move. They knew they had the advantage of surprise, but they also knew that the Council's forces were vast and well-equipped. The humans needed to strike quickly and decisively before the Council could fully regroup. The decision was made. Earth would officially declare war on the Galactic Council. This was not just about revenge for the death of an innocent child. It was about securing humanity's place in the galaxy. The Council had ruled with an iron fist for too long, and now it was time for a change. The declaration of war was broadcast across the galaxy. In a solemn speech, Earth's leader stood before the world and spoke to all of humanity and beyond. "We did not seek this conflict, but we will not shy away from it," the leader said. "The Galactic Council has shown that it values power over justice, fear over fairness. We will fight not just for our own survival, but for the freedom of all beings who suffer under their rule. This is not just our war. This is a war for the future of the galaxy." The declaration was met with mixed reactions across different worlds. On some planets, especially those that had long chafed under the Council's rule, there was quiet support for Earth's bold stand. Other species, however, were fearful of the chaos that a full-scale war could bring. But one thing was certain: the galaxy was changing, and nothing would ever be the same. Back on Earth, the ancient fleet was fully activated and ready for battle. The ships, once hidden away in dusty bunkers, now soared through space with renewed purpose. They were joined by newer vessels, hastily built and equipped with the latest technology. The combined fleet was a mix of old and new, but together, they formed a formidable force. The first target in Earth's campaign was a key star system controlled by the Council. This system was home to several important supply routes and military bases. Capturing it would not only disrupt the Council's operations, but also send a strong message that the humans were serious about their fight. As the fleet approached the star system, tensions ran high. The crew members, many of whom had never seen battle before, prepared themselves for what was to come. The sight of the Council's defenses, a vast array of ships and space stations, was intimidating, but the humans were determined. They had come too far to turn back now. The battle began with a series of precise strikes against the Council's outer defenses. The human fleet moved with surprising speed and coordination, catching the Council's forces off guard. The ancient ships, with their powerful weapons and reinforced shields, led the charge, blasting through the enemy lines with relentless force. The Council's ships fought back fiercely, but they were not prepared for the strength of Earth's fleet. The humans had upgraded their technology, combining the best of old and new, and it showed. The Council's ships were fast and agile, but the human ships were tougher, able to withstand heavy fire and dish out even more in return. As the battle raged on, the humans began to gain the upper hand. One by one, the Council's ships were destroyed or forced to retreat. The space stations, once thought to be impregnable, were targeted and taken out with surgical precision. The tide of the battle had turned, and it was clear that the humans were winning. In the midst of the fighting, a small group of Council ships attempted to flee the system, hoping to bring reinforcements. But the human fleet was ready for this. A squadron of fast, nimble fighters broke off from the main fleet and pursued the fleeing ships. In a series of quick, decisive strikes, they disabled the engines of the Council ships, leaving them stranded and at the mercy of the human fleet. As the last of the Council's defenses crumbled, the human fleet moved in to secure the system. The remaining Council forces were given a choice: surrender or be destroyed. Most chose to surrender, knowing that they stood no chance against the relentless human assault. The capture of the star system was a major victory for Earth. It was the first time in history that a Council-controlled system had fallen to an enemy. The victory boosted morale among the humans and sent a clear message to the rest of the galaxy: Earth was not to be underestimated. But with victory came new challenges. The war had only just begun, and the Galactic Council was far from defeated. They would undoubtedly regroup and strike back with even greater force. The humans knew that they had to be ready for whatever came next. Back on Earth, the leaders continued to plan their strategy. They knew that the war would be long and difficult, but they were committed to seeing it through. For too long, humanity had been treated as a lesser species, but now they had the power to change that. They were fighting not just for themselves, but for a future where all species could live free from oppression. As the war began in earnest, the galaxy watched with bated breath. The humans had proven themselves to be a force to be reckoned with, but the true test of their strength was yet to come. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and only time would tell who would emerge victorious. The war between Earth and the Galactic Council raged on, spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. Battles erupted in distant star systems, planets were caught in the crossfire, and countless lives were lost on both sides. What had started as a conflict over the death of a single child had now grown into a full-scale war, with no end in sight. The Galactic Council, stunned by the unexpected strength of the human fleet, scrambled to regain control. They called in reinforcements from across their vast territories, assembling the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. The Council's leaders were determined to crush the humans once and for all, to restore their dominance and end the threat posed by Earth's defiance. But the humans, driven by a deep sense of justice and a desire for freedom, refused to back down. Every battle they fought with everything they had. Their ancient fleet, combined with newer ships and advanced tactics, proved to be a match for the Council's might. The humans knew they were outnumbered, but they also knew that they were fighting for something more than just survival. They were fighting for a future where they could stand as equals in the galaxy. The war had reached a critical point. Both sides were exhausted, and the outcome was uncertain. It was during this time that the human leaders realized they needed a decisive victory, something that would turn the tide of the war in their favor. They needed a turning point, a battle that would change everything. The opportunity came when intelligence reports revealed that the Council was planning a massive assault on a key human stronghold, a planet known as New Terra. New Terra was one of Earth's most important colonies, home to millions of people and a vital hub for the human war effort. If the Council captured New Terra, it would be a devastating blow to the humans. But if Earth could defend it successfully, it could be the turning point they desperately needed. Earth's leaders quickly devised a plan. They would make New Terra the site of their most significant battle yet. The fleet would be divided into two groups. One would defend New Terra, while the other would prepare an ambush for the Council's fleet. The idea was to lure the Council into a trap, using New Terra as bait, and then strike with overwhelming force when the moment was right. As the Council's massive fleet approached New Terra, the human defenders prepared themselves for the fight of their lives. The planet's orbit was filled with Earth's ships, each one ready to stand its ground against the coming onslaught. On the surface, the people of New Terra braced for impact, knowing that their fate was tied to the outcome of this battle. The Council's fleet arrived in full force, their ships blotting out the stars as they surrounded New Terra. The humans waited, their ships holding position, as the Council's forces moved into range. Then, with a thunderous roar, the battle began. The sky above New Terra lit up with the flashes of laser fire and explosions. The Council's ships unleashed a barrage of attacks, determined to break through the human defenses. But the humans were ready. Their ships, positioned strategically around the planet, fought back with everything they had. The ancient fleet, with its powerful weapons and reinforced shields, once again proved its worth, holding the line against the Council's advance. For hours, the battle raged on. The Council's fleet pushed forward, determined to reach the planet below, but the humans refused to give ground. Every time a Council ship broke through, it was met with fierce resistance from Earth's forces. The Council's commanders, frustrated by the stubborn human defense, ordered wave after wave of attacks, but the humans held strong. Then, just as it seemed the Council might break through, the second part of Earth's plan was set into motion. From the shadows of a nearby asteroid field, the second group of human ships emerged. These ships, hidden until the last moment, launched a surprise attack on the Council's rear flank. The Council's fleet, caught off guard and unable to respond quickly enough, was suddenly surrounded. The human ships struck with precision, targeting the Council's most vulnerable vessels. The ambush was devastating, and within minutes, the tide of the battle began to turn. The Council's fleet, which had seemed unstoppable just moments before, was now in disarray. Their ships, trapped between the defenders and the ambushers, struggled to regroup. As the human fleet pressed its advantage, the Council's commanders realized they had underestimated their enemy once again. What they had thought would be a quick and decisive victory was turning into a disaster. One by one, the Council's ships began to fall, their defenses overwhelmed by the relentless human assault. On the surface of New Terra, the people watched as the Council's fleet began to retreat. The sky, once filled with the fire of battle, now cleared as the surviving Council ships fled the system. The humans had won. New Terra was safe, and with it, Earth had secured its most important victory of the war. The news of the victory spread quickly across the galaxy. For the first time, it seemed that the humans might actually win this war. The battle for New Terra became a symbol of hope, a sign that the Galactic Council was not invincible. Other species, long oppressed by the Council's rule, began to see Earth as a beacon of resistance, a force that could challenge the status quo. For the Galactic Council, the defeat was a humiliating blow. Their once unshakable power was now in question, and the war they had started was spiraling out of control. They had underestimated the humans at every turn, and now they were paying the price. Back on Earth, the leaders knew that the war was far from over, but they also knew that they had reached a turning point. The victory at New Terra had given them the momentum they needed. Now, it was time to push forward, to take the fight to the Council's core worlds and end the war once and for all. As the humans prepared for the next phase of the conflict, the galaxy watched with renewed interest. The war that had begun with the death of a child was now reshaping the future of the galaxy, and at the center of it all was Earth, a small planet that had risen to challenge the most powerful force in the universe.